Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So today we're going to be diving into the resources available for Jamaicans returning home after deportation.
Right.
It's it's a really important topic, I think. Coming home after being away for so long, especially under those circumstances, it can be a really difficult transition.
Absolutely. And it's something that a lot of people don't really think about. They think,
Mhm.
okay, you're going back home. It should be straightforward, but there's a lot more to it.
Exactly. And you know what's surprising is there are actually a lot of resources available to help people make that transition.
And a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, there are so many different organizations and programs and initiatives, both from the government and from community groups.
Hmm.
And so we're going to be taking a look at all of that today.
Yeah.
So let's start with the basics. What does it even mean to have a right of return as a Jamaican citizen?
That's a great question. And it's really important to understand that, the Jamaican Constitution guarantees the right of return for all Jamaican citizens,
Okay.
no matter the circumstances.
Yeah.
So even if someone has been deported, they still have the right to come back home.
So it's not like they're banned from the country.
Exactly.
Okay.
They still have that fundamental right.
So what does that mean in practical terms? What kind of rights do returning citizens have when they come back to Jamaica?
Well, it means they have the same rights as any other Jamaican citizen.
Okay.
So they have the right to live in Jamaica, they have the right to work, they have access to health care, education.
It's about making sure that everyone has an equal footing, regardless of their past.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about some of the specific resources that are available.
Yeah.
I know that the Ministry of National Security plays a big role here, right?
Yeah, they're a key player in this.
Yeah.
They have something called the Reintegration Program,
Okay.
specifically designed to help returning citizens.
What kind of support does that program offer?
Well, it offers a range of services, including counseling,
Oh, okay.
to help people deal with the trauma of deportation and to adjust to being back in Jamaica.
That makes sense because that must be a really difficult experience to go through,
Oh, absolutely.
to be sent away from the place that you call home.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the practical aspects of coming back. It's about the emotional and psychological impact as well.
Right.
And the ministry also helps to connect people with other services that they might need.
Like what?
Housing assistance, job training, healthcare, legal aid.
So it's kind of like a one-stop shop for getting back on your feet,
Exactly. They try to make it as easy as possible for people to get the support they need.
and it's tailored to each individual's needs, right? It's not like a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right. Exactly.
That's good.
They recognize that everyone's situation is different.
Now, I know that substance abuse is a challenge for some people who are deported.
Yes, unfortunately, that's true.
Are there any resources available for people who are struggling with that?
Yeah, there is. The National Council on Drug Abuse, or NCDA, they offer specialized treatment and rehab programs
Right.
to help people who are struggling with addiction.
And these programs are specifically designed for returning citizens.
Well, they're available to everyone,
Oh.
but they do have programs that are tailored to the specific needs of returning citizens.
So they understand the challenges that this population faces.
Exactly.
That's good.
And they have experience in working with them.
Now, what about basic needs? Things like housing and food and just connecting with the community.
Right.
What kind of support is there for that?
Well, there's an organization called the Social Development Commission, or SDC,
Okay.
and they work at the grassroots level to connect people with the resources they need.
So they're kind of like the boots on the ground,
Exactly.
making things happen.
They have a really good understanding of the local communities.
Yeah.
And they can help people to find housing, to get food assistance, to connect with other people in their community.
So it's not just about meeting those immediate needs. It's about helping people to integrate back into society
Absolutely.
and build a new life for themselves.
It's a holistic approach
Yeah.
to reintegration.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the government resources that are available, but I know there are also a lot of non-governmental organizations, NGOs, that are doing really important work in this area.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell me about some of the NGOs that are out there helping returning citizens.
Well, one that comes to mind is the Jamaica Red Cross.
Okay.
Now, most people know the Red Cross for their work in disaster relief,
Yeah.
but they do a lot more than that.
Okay.
They also have programs to support returning citizens.
Like what?
They provide emergency financial assistance.
Okay.
They help people to find housing.
Mm-hmm.
They offer job training.
So they're really trying to address those immediate needs.
Yes, and they also have health and wellness programs
Mm.
to help people to take care of their physical and mental health.
So they're really taking a holistic approach
Exactly.
to supporting returning citizens.
They understand that it's not just about meeting basic needs, it's about providing support in all areas of life.
What are some of the other NGOs that are doing great work?
Well, there's an organization called the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, or CAPRI.
Okay, I haven't heard of that word.
They're a think tank
Okay.
that focuses on research and policy analysis.
So they're not directly providing services to people.
Not directly, no.
Oh, okay.
But their work is really important because it helps to inform the policies and programs that are being developed to support returning citizens.
So they're kind of like the brains behind the operation.
Exactly.
They're doing the research and the analysis to figure out what works best.
Exactly. They're looking at the big picture
Okay.
and trying to identify the most effective ways to support this population.
That's really important.
Yes, because we want to make sure that the resources that are available are actually making a difference.
Right. We don't just want to throw money at a problem. We want to make sure that it's being used effectively.
Exactly.
So are there any other NGOs that you want to highlight?
Well, there's an organization called the Father Halung Foundation,
Okay.
and they do a lot of work with marginalized communities,
Mhm.
including returning citizens.
Okay.
They provide access to education, healthcare, job training.
So they're really trying to create opportunities for people.
Exactly. They're trying to empower people to build a better future for themselves.
That's great.
Yeah, they're a really inspiring organization.
So we've covered a lot of ground already. We've talked about government programs, we've talked about NGOs.
Yeah.
It's clear that there's a lot of support available for people returning to Jamaica after deportation.
Absolutely.
But I think it's important to acknowledge that it's still a really challenging transition.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And there are a lot of obstacles that people face.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the biggest challenges that you see returning citizens facing?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is just the stigma
Okay.
that surrounds deportation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
People often have a lot of misconceptions about why people are deported,
Right.
and they may judge returning citizens or discriminate against them.
So it's not just about the practical challenges, it's about the social and emotional challenges as well.
Absolutely.
And it's about feeling welcomed back into your own country.
Exactly.
And I imagine finding a job is a big challenge as well,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
especially if you've been away for a long time.
Mhm.
And, the job market in Jamaica can be tough.
Yeah, it can be.
And so trying to re-enter that job market after being away for a while, it can be really difficult.
Absolutely.
And then there's the whole issue of housing,
Right.
finding a place to live.
A lot of people come back and they don't have a place to stay.
Right. And affordable housing can be hard to come by.
Yeah, it can be a real struggle.
So these are all really significant challenges.
They are.
But I think it's important to remember that there is help available.
Absolutely.
And there are people who want to support returning citizens and help them to make a successful transition.
Yes. There's a whole network of support out there.
Yeah. And we're going to be talking more about that in our next segment.
Yeah, we're going to delve deeper into some of the specific resources that are available
Exactly. So stay tuned.
and how to access them.
Yes. We'll be back after a short break.
Looking forward to it.
Okay. So welcome back, everyone.
It's great to be back.
Before we really get into the nitty-gritty, like all the paperwork and like really adjusting to being back in Jamaica,
Right.
I wanted to go back to those community groups that we were talking about before the break
Yeah, those are really important.
because they seem to play a really big role
Did you do?
in helping people to reintegrate.
Yeah, it's not just about like the practical stuff. It's also about that sense of belonging,
Right.
feeling like you're part of a community again.
Yeah, especially after being away for so long and, maybe even feeling like you've been rejected by your own country in a way.
Absolutely.
It's got to be so important to have those people who are there to welcome you back and say, hey, you're one of us.
Yeah, that sense of community can make all the difference.
And, it's not just about that emotional support, right?
I know, it's not.
They also provide practical help,
Right.
like food banks and clothing drives and things like that.
Absolutely. They really help to meet those immediate needs.
So it's kind of like a safety net
Yeah,
for
exactly.
people who are coming back and maybe don't have a lot of resources.
It's about making sure that people have what they need to get back on their feet.
Okay, so we talked earlier about this idea of the right of return,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm wondering, are there any misconceptions or like stigma surrounding deportation that returnees might encounter?
Yeah, unfortunately, there can be.
Okay.
There's still a lot of stigma attached to deportation.
Like what?
Well, people might assume that everyone who's been deported is a criminal,
Right.
which isn't true, of course.
Yeah.
There are many reasons why someone might be deported.
Yeah.
And it's not always because they've done something wrong.
Right.
Sometimes just a matter of paperwork.
Okay.
or being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
So even if someone has a legal right to be in Jamaica, they still might face some judgment from other people
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true.
just because of this kind of negative perception of deportation.
Right, and that can make it even harder for people to reintegrate.
Yeah, because you're not just dealing with the practical challenges, you're also dealing with this kind of social and emotional baggage.
Absolutely.
And, those community groups that we were talking about, they can play a really important role in helping break down those stereotypes.
Yeah, they can help to create a more welcoming and inclusive environment.
Now, I imagine that finding a job is a big challenge for a lot of returnees,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
especially if they've been away for a long time. And the job market can be really competitive in Jamaica.
Absolutely.
So what kind of advice would you give to someone who's trying to find work after being deported?
Well, first of all, I would say don't give up.
Okay.
It might take some time to find the right job,
Yeah.
but there are opportunities out there.
So just be persistent.
Exactly.
And don't be afraid to reach out for help.
Right. There are a lot of organizations that can help people with job searching.
Yeah, like the National Employment Agency and the Heart Trust.
Exactly.
We talked about those earlier.
Hmm?
And, they can help people to update their resumes, to develop their skills, to connect with potential employers.
We can also provide guidance on how to navigate the job market in Jamaica.
Okay, so what about people who are more entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
People who maybe want to start their own business.
Yeah. That's a great option for a lot of attorneys.
Yeah, because they might have skills and experience that they've gained overseas
Yeah.
that they can bring back to Jamaica.
Right. They might have a unique perspective or a different way of doing things.
And there are resources available to help people to start their own business, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Like what?
Well, there's the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, or JBDC,
Okay.
and they offer a range of services to support entrepreneurs.
Such as?
Business planning, mentorship, access to funding.
So they can really help people to get their business off the ground.
Exactly.
And, starting a business can be a great way to create your own opportunities.
Yeah, it can be really empowering.
Yeah, especially if you're facing discrimination in the job market.
Absolutely. It gives you the freedom to be your own boss.
So we've talked about jobs, we've talked about starting a business.
Mm-hmm.
But what about finding a place to live?
Right. That's another big challenge.
Housing can be really expensive in Jamaica,
Yeah, it can be.
especially in the urban areas.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of returnees might not have a lot of money saved up.
Right. They might be starting from scratch.
So what are some of the options for people who are looking for affordable housing?
Well, the National Housing Trust is a good place to start.
Okay.
They offer a range of housing solutions, including affordable mortgages and rental units.
But what if you're not eligible for the NHT or you need a place to stay right away?
Well, there are also a number of community organizations that offer temporary housing assistance.
Okay.
And some churches and charities also provide shelter for people who are homeless.
So there are options out there,
Yes, there are.
but it might take some effort to find them.
Right. It's important to do your research and to reach out for help.
And we talked earlier about those community groups,
Yeah,
and they can also be a great resource for finding housing.
absolutely. They often have connections to landlords, or they might know of people who are looking for roommates.
So it's all about networking and
Exact-
tapping into those community connections.
Right. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
So I think we've covered a lot of really important ground here.
Yeah, we have.
We've talked about the emotional and social challenges of returning to Jamaica after deportation.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the importance of community support.
Right.
We've talked about the challenges of finding work and housing.
And we've talked about the resources that are available to help people.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for people to know that they're not alone in this.
Absolutely.
There are people who care about them and want to help them to make a successful transition.
It's a journey, but it's a journey that you don't have to take alone.
Oh, well said.
And in our next segment, we're going to be talking about the legal and practical aspects of returning to Jamaica after deportation.
Yeah, because there's a lot of paperwork involved,
There is.
and it can be really confusing.
It can.
So we're going to try to break it down and make it as easy to understand as possible.
Yeah, we want to give people the information they need to navigate the system.
So stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the show.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so we've talked about the emotional side of returning to Jamaica after deportation
Right.
and the support systems that are out there. We even touched on some job hunting and housing.
Yeah.
But now I kind of want to dive into the more legal and practical stuff
Okay. Yeah.
because I imagine there's a lot of that.
There is.
So where do we even begin
Well, I think the first thing is to make sure you have all your documents in order,
Okay.
like your passport, birth certificate, any kind of legal papers you might have.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Get everything organized.
Yeah.
Makes the process a lot smoother.
Now, I imagine the rules and regulations surrounding deportation and reentry,
Uh-huh.
they can be pretty complicated.
Yeah, they can be.
And they probably change from time to time, right?
Exactly.
So where can people go to get the most up-to-date information?
Best place to check is the Ministry of National Security's website.
Okay, so that's like the official source.
It is.
Right.
They've got all the latest guidelines and forms and everything.
So bookmark that one.
Definitely.
Now, what if someone's having trouble, understanding all the legal stuff? Or they just feel overwhelmed?
It can be a lot.
What should they do?
Well, it's always a good idea to talk to an immigration lawyer.
Okay.
They can help you understand your rights,
Mm-hmm.
walk you through the process.
It's like having an expert in your corner.
Exactly. Take some of the pressure off.
Now, let's talk about some of the practical adjustments that people have to make when they come back to Jamaica.
Okay.
What are some things that might have changed since they've been away?
One thing is the currency.
Oh, yeah.
If you've been using U.S. dollars or Canadian dollars,
Right.
it can take a while to get used to handling Jamaican dollars again.
It's like you're in a whole different world almost.
Yeah, kind of.
And speaking of money, you're going to need to open a bank account, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Seems easier.
Absolutely, for managing your finances.
Okay, what about getting around?
Okay, well, we've got a pretty good public transportation system here.
Oh.
Buses, taxis, road taxis.
Route taxi.
Oh, it's like a shared taxi
Okay.
that goes along a specific route.
So it's kind of like a bus, but
Yeah, but it's smaller,
okay.
more flexible.
Gotcha.
They can be a little confusing, though,
I bet.
if you're not used to them.
Yeah.
But people are usually pretty helpful if you need directions.
Okay.
Or you can check online for route maps.
And then, of course, there's always the option of getting a driver's license.
Yeah, if you want to drive yourself.
But driving in Jamaica is probably a bit different than driving in other countries, right?
Yeah, can be.
Yeah.
The roads are narrower. The traffic can be a bit chaotic.
Okay, so it takes some getting used to.
Yeah, be prepared for anything.
All right, beyond like the nuts and bolts of currency and transportation,
Right.
there's also the cultural adjustment.
Absolutely.
Jamaica has a very unique culture,
Mhm.
and it's constantly evolving.
Yeah, always changing.
So what are some things that people might find have changed since they've been away?
Well, even the language can be a bit of an adjustment.
Really?
Yeah, patois is always changing.
Oh, I bet.
New words, new slang.
So you might feel a little lost,
Yeah.
but you'll pick it up.
Oh, you will.
And then, of course, there's reconnecting with family and friends.
Yeah, that's one of the most important things.
That's like the heart of it all, right?
It is. That's your support system.
And, beyond family and friends, there's rediscovering all the things that make Jamaica so special.
Yeah.
The music, the food, the festivals.
Yeah.
It's like falling in love with Jamaica all over again.
Exactly.
Now, I think it's really important to acknowledge that this whole process of reintegration,
Yeah,
it takes time.
it does.
It's not going to happen overnight.
No.
So people need to be patient with themselves.
And with the process,
Yeah.
give it time.
And remember that there are people who are there to support them.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to reach out for help.
Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive.
It has.
We've covered so much ground.
We have.
And I think the thing that really stands out to me is the resilience of the human spirit
Yeah.
and the power of community to support people through really difficult times.
Absolutely. And the fact that even though deportation is a really tough experience,
Mhm.
there's still hope for a fresh start.
Yeah. And there are people who are ready to help make that happen.
Exactly.
So for our listeners out there, we hope that this deep dive has given you a better understanding of the resources that are available to support you.
Yeah. And that you feel empowered to reach out for help if you need it.
You are not alone in this journey.
No, you're not.
And we wish you all the best in your return to Jamaica.
Welcome home.
Thanks for joining us.